Right now I'm going to tell you something about real estate contracts. They can be like a landmine. You can walk through the whole thing thinking you're fine, and then boom, you just stepped on one that you can just blow up your sale. What I'm talking about is like these sneaky little sentences buried so deep in the fine print that most people never notice them until they're signing a check they never planned to write, okay? And I'm not talking about chump change here. I've seen people lose 5, 10, 50,000 legally, all because of a single sentence and because they hired the wrong realtor who didn't protect them, kept that sentence in there. So right now we're going to walk through the 8 sneakiest clauses I've seen, exactly how you can protect yourself from them. Let's get to it. Well, one, the thing that no one really tells you, that contracts are not neutral. They're not drafted by some magical fairness committee whose job is to make sure everyone gets a fair shake. No, they're usually written by attorneys whose job is to protect their client, if it's a buyer or a seller, period. So if that contract came from the buyer side or from like a builder or a developer, you can bet it's been loaded with safety nets for them and like little tripwires for you. And the worst part, so many agents just roll over and accept standard language because they assume it's just the way things are done. But standard doesn't mean safe. That's why hiring a listing-based realtor is very important. They know how to not only fight the little sharks, but they know all the different clauses, the bad ones, because they've done it before. The more you do, the more you learn. And what you learn is about the turbulence and things that could go wrong and to protect their client. The first thing is the as-is clause, but with kind of like a little bit of a twist. It means, what does as-is mean, first of all? It makes sellers breathe a sigh of relief. It sounds like, oh, I'm not making repairs, I'm selling it just the way it is. But in reality, many as-is clauses still allow inspections, and they give the buyer a full escape hatch if they're not satisfied with what they find. And not satisfied can mean anything. I read about one buyer, one of these agents were telling me, who had pulled out after claiming they didn't like the feel of the basement. There weren't any foundation issues, just a vibe they didn't like. Okay. And they were able to walk away with their deposit because the contract wording allowed it. And the kicker is that buyers can also use inspections to negotiate even in as-is sales. I've seen offers come in $20,000 over asking, only for the buyer to later demand $25,000 in credits after inspections. Not on my watch, but I've heard this from home sellers, because I've talked to a lot of home sellers and they tell me all the good, bad, and the ugly. Now on paper it still says as is, but in reality you're right back to repair negotiations. So a big tip here is if you're going as is, make sure it's truly no repairs, no concessions in writing, and that the buyer can't cancel because they changed their mind about the condition or they don't just get the vibe of the basement. I always say get a non-refundable deposit, and you know the buyer's serious. That's what I do. And that's what I teach my Real Deal agents all over the United States to do. If I'm going to refer you an agent somewhere, I will teach them all this stuff. Get to go through my program. If you want me to hire somebody, just go to Real Deal Agent and I will vet them for you. Sneaky clause number 2 is called the per diem penalty. It's sneaky because it sounds reasonable. If the seller delays closing, they pay a daily penalty. But the devil is really, I say, in the details here, because in many contracts, the buyer isn't penalized for their delays, only you. One of the comments I got from one of my videos was a seller in the Midwest who had to pay over $2,000 in late penalties because their buyer's movers got caught up in a snowstorm. Totally outside their control, but the contract language didn't care. Meanwhile, if the buyer's lender had delayed funding, there would have been no penalty. See, you're the only one, if you didn't sell the day you were supposed to, it's going to be, you're going to lose your interest on your deposit monies, your net proceeds. You're going to lose, you're going to pay taxes still for the house. You're going to pay utility costs, all those things, your mortgage payment. You're going to be stuck with that. I always try to get the buyer to pay for it if they need to extend it. That's what you do. And also the per diem penalties often don't cap the total amount you can be charged. You know, a week-long delay of closings, for example, could cost you thousands, especially if the daily ranges between $300 and $500. I feel you should be compensated for your carrying costs if the settlement got extended. The money you lost because you didn't receive your money and it was late, and it was the buyer's fault. So if you agree to a per diem, make sure it's mutual, both sides get penalized equally for delays, and there's a reasonable cap, all right? Very important. Number 3, I call this sneaky repair language. It's a big one. The shark will bite you. This one that says, okay, repairs shall be completed in a workmanlike manner by a licensed contractor with receipts. Sounds professional, right? Except it returns even these small repairs into big ticket bills. One comment I got from a home seller, they had to pay $450 to replace a $30 bathroom fan because the clause required a licensed electrician. Without that wording, a handyman could have done it for a fraction of the cost. That is why I have shark number 2 in my book called pre-home inspection. That's why you get your home inspected before you list. You get the work done by the handyman. That's it, not a peep from the buyer who's going to demand a licensed person. We're just not going to have it. Guys, listen, even the term workmanlike manner is a trap. It's vague enough for buyers to reject work they don't feel is good enough, even if it passes inspection. They can force you to redo the work, pushing your costs even higher. So a tip here is set a limit on repair costs, specifically what kind of work actually requires a licensed pro, and remove vague terms that can be used as loopholes. And the other tip, of course, is get the home inspected. After the inspection's done, sit with their realtor, go through what strategy you should do, what repairs you should do, list it here. Here's all the repairs I'm going to do. Here's all the things wrong with the house. I'm only going to do these repairs. You're on the hat for the rest of them. Sign off here that you're not, if you find anything else, if you do an additional home inspection, we're not going to do it because you already know about it. It's already disclosed. It's key. Sneaky clause number 4. I call this a post-closing occupancy trap. What's that? Well, it's when you let buyers move in early or just store a few boxes. Kind of feels harmless, but in many states, early possession can give them legal tenant rights. Story I heard from one of my YouTube fans is kind of blows my mind that the buyer was allowed to move some furniture into the garage a few days before closing. The deal collapsed, the seller asked them to remove their things, and the buyer refused until the seller paid them storage fees for their trouble. In another case, I heard a buyer who started painting early became a legal tenant when the sale fell through, forcing the seller to go through a full eviction process. Do you hear me? That no one and nothing gets in that house before settlement. So if you do agree to early access, you need a separate written agreement that spells out exactly what they can and cannot do, when they'll be out, and they have zero tenancy rights. Zero tenancy rights. And of course, make sure you get a large security deposit. Have something on there that says they will lose all the deposit monies. Number 5, I call this the option period abuse. What's that? Well, some states, contracts allow buyers to pay a small fee, sometimes under $200, for the right to cancel for any reason during a set option period. Now, on paper, it's really for inspections. In reality, it's often abused. Investors love this. They'll lock up your home sometimes for 2 weeks, try to resell it at a higher price, and if they can't, they walk away. Now you've been off the market for the whole time and missed other serious buyers. And the worst part is that little option fee they pay is non-refundable to them. But it's pennies compared to what you lose if your home sits unsold during prime showing time. So a tip here, if you agree to an option period, make it short, like 3 to 5 days, and require a hefty non-refundable deposit, not just a token little fee. Number 6, HOA and special assessment shifts. HOAs are just sometimes not great. They have their own ways of surprising you. Some contracts make you responsible for any special assessment that's announced before closing, even if the bill doesn't arrive until months later. One of my YouTube subscribers said they were a condo owner. They sold their unit, they closed on time, and 2 weeks later, they got a $12,000 bill for a roof replacement. Why? Because the HOA had announced the assessment 1 week before closing. They didn't know about it. And the contract language does say that the seller was on the hook for anything announced. They were announced, meaning they had a letter for it, or they were sent a letter before settlement. They never received a letter. They weren't there. They were like an absentee owner. What's the fix here? Well, I would say spell out exactly which HOA fees you'll pay. Make sure there's no assessments. Make sure that you clear that out with your HOA before you sell your home. Another HOA little clause in the agreement of sale says that the seller has a certain amount of days to get the condo or the HOA documents to the buyer so the buyer knows exactly what's in them. And then after that, the buyer has about 5 days to review them, say, for example, right? So during that review period, that's a contingency. They can back out and get all their money back. So try to get your condo docs to them ahead of time and have them sign off on them ahead of time. And on these condo docs or the HOA docs, list all the assessments on there usually now. They put that on there. And any fees and everything about how much they spend money on, let them see that ahead of time before they sign on the dotted line. And also don't forget on your closing costs to put that on the dotted line there where it says closing costs, because HOA docs cost anywhere between $300 and $1,000. Every time a home gets sold, I tell you, they get you every which way. The township gets money for their use and occupancy certificate, the taxes gets money, everybody gets money. A profitable gambit. Yes, as I always say, a profitable gambit. Number 7, uncapped repair escrows. Repair escrows, what are they for? They're a common solution for last minute issues. What is that? That's if something, when you get to settlement and say you left things in the attic you didn't know, and it was like, well, the buyer's like, well, I want some money put aside in escrow for that, attic. And they say, well, I want $500. I'm like, well, that's not $500 worth of stuff, but I want it anyway. And meanwhile, they'll get like their uncle's, son's, daughter's, I don't know, somebody to remove the stuff and say it costs $500 and eat up all your escrow. So there always needs to be a cap or else you're handing over a blank check. I was told by one of the sellers in the rural area of Pennsylvania, they emailed into me the other day, they agreed on a reasonable repair escrow for a septic system, but the buyer's contractor ran up the bill with extra work and escrow payout jumped from $2,500 to nearly $7,000. So that's why you need to set a hard cap on the repair escrow. If the repairs exceeded, the buyer should cover the difference, not you. Make sure you're only holding a certain amount. And number 8, attorney review clauses kind of resets the clock. We don't have attorney review here in Pennsylvania, but they have it in New Jersey. Do you have attorney review in your area? Put a comment below. Because in certain states where the contracts include this attorney review period, where both sides can make changes, that's fine until the clause allows unlimited extensions. I've seen sales drag on for weeks while the buyer's attorneys back and forth, wasting buyers and sellers' money. The review here and the reviews back and forth. And one of my comments, someone told me that their delay pushed the deal back past their peak selling season and cost them, higher offers they could have had. So if you have an attorney review clause, that's the state you're in, set firm deadlines and make sure extensions require both sides to agree in writing. So now that I went through all the 8 sneaky clauses, how can you spot them? 1, read every line yourself. Just don't rely on someone else's summary of it. Ask when you're reading it, who benefits from this? And if it's not both sides, question it, okay? Look for vague words like reasonable, customary, and satisfactory, workmanlike. Double check the counteroffer changes. Love to hide there. And have your attorney review it. Your realtor should be experienced enough. However, they're not lawyers, so that's why hiring a Real Deal Realtor is good. That's something I can do for you. Go to realdealagent.com. I'll vet the realtor for you. Make sure you don't get caught up in any of these 8 sneaky clauses. So you might ask me, is there a way to negotiate them or remove them? Yeah. 1, don't be afraid to strike through or rewrite the language before you sign. Use addendums and set clear limits, like repairs not to exceed $1,500 or daily penalties applied to both parties, something like that. And also push for mutual responsibility across all deadlines and penalties. Really important. Whenever possible, present your own offer form instead of just signing theirs, because you have the control of the language. And if you're watching this and say, I wish someone was catching all this fine print for me, where's my Real Deal Agent? Well, you can go to realdealagent.com, and how it works is I have a quick call with you. I want to understand your home, your goals, and your timeline. I have you fill out a form, and then I personally match you with a vetted listing-based agent who knows how to protect you in the fine print. And basically, I stay in the loop. Most agents who refer people just send anybody, and then they just wait for their check. We don't. We coach the agents on prepping, pricing, marketing, making sure your equity is protected from start to finish. And we train them on our book principles. It's not about finding any agent, it's about finding the right one. It's hard. It's really hard to find someone who's a good marketer. Oh my God. I look at their pictures and I'm like, ugh. So I can train pictures, I can train that. So I don't mind the pictures aren't so good. The other stuff I can't train. I can't train integrity, can't train experience. I mean, there's certain things I can't train. So that's why there's things that I can help out with. I don't worry about the photos as much. So final advice, contracts aren't just paperwork. They're the rule book for your sale. So if you skim over the fine print, you're basically giving the other side a blueprint to take advantage of you. So read every word, ask every question, cut out the vague language, protect your equity. Scams just don't happen to other people. And so if you want to see exactly how con artists target home sellers and the sneaky ways they can steal your home, watch this next video. It's called the 8 Real Estate Scams That Could Steal Your Home. It's perfect. It's a great video. It's the perfect next step to keep your sale safe.